Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Acton in West London to Fulham. The ride takes about half an hour and you can do most of it on protected cycle lanes and quiet streets. If you were to use public transport to do this journey, it would probably take between about 40 and 50 minutes. The links aren't particularly good, so it's a good time saver as well. And as you can see from the map, it's very direct. If you enjoy this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more routes like it, as I post new ones here every week. Right, let's get going. So we're starting right outside Acton Central station, and we're going to head into Acton Park here. This park actually closes at sundown, so if you need to do this route after dark, then you want to go down East Acton Lane, which is a road that runs parallel to the path here. But it's definitely nicer to ride in the park if it's open. This path is shared with pedestrians, and although it's quite wide and there aren't that many people around, on sunny days it can be a bit busier, so do watch out for people and don't ride too fast or too close to anybody. Acton Park is relatively unremarkable, except for the fact that there is actually a large mini golf course here where you can come, and you can also eat pizza apparently. So we come out of the park and you immediately want to cross this road. You can either use the pedestrian crossing to our left there, or you can just wait for a gap in the traffic like I did. And then you want to start going straight down Mansell Road. This street is mostly very quiet as it doesn't have any through traffic on it, there's nowhere for it to go. But if you watch out on the left, there is actually a distribution centre with some sort of light industry businesses there. And you can see there's a lorry there, so you can assume that there will occasionally be commercial vehicles moving through there. So do watch out for those. You go through the path at the end of that street and now we're on to Southfields playing fields, and there's a relatively nice path here. It's nothing special, but it keeps us away from the traffic. And yeah, do be careful as always. There are people and of course dogs that will be using it too, and you don't want to go too close to them. But the path is generally pretty wide, so I wouldn't worry too much. Now you come out of the playing fields here, and then you go onto the road here for a short section of time and then turn straight down St Albans Avenue. Now, most of the time I would actually take the first left here and go down another street, and we're heading for a road called Rusthall Avenue, which connects to a cycle route that we're going to. I didn't go that way this time because there's actually some roadworks on that street, so it's blocked off. So I'm actually going on a couple more streets and I'll be turning left in a second. This doesn't really make any difference, it really takes us through to the same place. You can see just here on the left, that's where the roadworks are, so that road is actually closed there. But yeah, turn right down Rusthall Avenue and just keep going straight there. The road closure actually seems to have quietened down the road a little bit, which is quite nice. That won't always be there, so you might run into a little bit more traffic on here. It is quite narrow and it does have parking on both sides, which is always a little bit annoying because it can be quite difficult to pass drivers. But generally it's a pretty quiet street and it's only relatively short. At the end of it, we're actually going to connect onto quite a nice footpath again, like the one we came over the playing fields on. So yeah, we're heading for Acton Green. Acton seems to actually be a pretty big place. I don't know it too well, but there's a lot of different dimensions to it, and it has a lot of railway stations too. I wasn't really sure where the best place to start the ride from was. But anyway, go up onto the shared use pavement here, and there's actually a joint cycle crossing there. So you can use that, and you go onto the path Acton Green. And yeah, it's the same sort of deal here really. You're just riding on a shared path with pedestrians, and so watch out for them. And yeah, it's a little bit narrow here. And then we're going to be going into our first proper low traffic neighbourhood, LTN. So this is the North Chiswick LTN, and we get to it by going on Fisher's Lane here. As you can see, this is a bus route and it is quite a narrow street, so do be careful. It does seem like there's not very much traffic on it though, because the area has had various closures to keep cars out. Now, this little bit coming up here is actually a mini gyratory, so it's a very small one-way system. We're just going to keep going straight on, but if you were coming in the other direction, you'd be coming round that corner just from a slightly different street. Now we get to Chiswick High Road and just wait for a gap in the traffic here to cross, and then we get onto this great two-way cycle track, a bi-directional cycle track. Now this is fantastic. It's just been put in by TfL and with the cooperation of the borough, and it basically runs down the whole of Chiswick High Road. It's brand new. It runs from, you'll see the eastern extent of it, but it runs all the way now to Kew Bridge in the west, which is a really, really long way, and that connects with a lot of stuff. You can actually use it to get to Ealing, I believe. And I'll make a video showing you exactly how to do that later. But generally, I think, just enjoy riding on this because it's really high quality. Look at the surface just going over here. It's a slightly different colour. That's to show motorists that they're crossing a cycle track. The build-outs and the segregation are really good. There's even a loading bay there. The bus stops are really wide. There's plenty of space for people boarding buses to cross there. There's cycle level signals here, so there's traffic lights there. This is a green light for us, by the way. That red light is for cars. I think that guy misread it. So yeah, you really just keep going straight down here, and yeah, there's all these little different crossings. It's a nice double white line with these what they call wand segregation. Again, more discoloured tarmac to show motorists who are pulling out that they're crossing a cycle lane, and these really wide bus stops with level boarding. It really shows what can be done with temporary materials, and I do think that this is generally the best temporary cycle lane that they've put in. Hopefully it will become permanent. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't last. So we're crossing the border into Hammersmith and Fulham, the borough, and unfortunately they haven't allowed this to continue. So there is a little bit of treatment. So you can see on the right hand side there is a bus lane that's sort of been boarded off with those red and white barriers, and yeah, there's this sort of dashed painted cycle lane, but you'll see now the problem with it. Unfortunately, people just park in it or do loading. That van's doing it, and there are more further down, so you're probably better off in the carriageway actually. Fortunately, this is only a really small section, but it is quite an unpleasant place to ride, to be honest, and it's not of the standard that I would like. Last I heard was that TfL were actually pushing to extend the good bit into this section of the road, so let's hope that happens and that the borough listens. It does turn into a segregated lane of sorts again in a second. So just coming up here, there's a junction, and it's actually quite a strange design. So you'll see these vans coming through. Do make sure that they've seen you. But yeah, this is quite an old curb-protected cycle lane. This is good in this direction. Going in the other direction, they've kind of like doubled it up. So you see those red and white barriers, and unfortunately it doesn't really work because they've left loading bays in. So you'll see here there's a van parked in it. Just look here. That van isn't doing anything wrong, I don't think. That is actually, well, some of them are on the double yellows, but most of them aren't doing anything wrong. That's just where they're allowed to leave their vans. That obviously presents a problem because you just get stuck in the cycle lane, so I'm not sure how you're supposed to use that. You're probably in the opposite direction, better just cycling in the road. But anyway, we're back on quieter streets now. So when I've manoeuvred around this van, we will just keep going straight here. Now, you used to be able to go straight across this road here and cross under the Hammersmith flyover, and you still can, but we're going to go this way, and the reason for that is that we're going to go down to the Thames Path, and going straight on there would take us directly to the Thames Path, but unfortunately we can't keep going on the Thames Path under Hammersmith Bridge. You may have seen in the news that Hammersmith Bridge is actually closed. What you might not have noticed though is that Hammersmith Bridge, the Thames Path under Hammersmith Bridge is also closed, so we're taking this slight detour. This little bit here is actually a cycle path. It's okay, it's pretty wide. They actually flipped which side of the trees was cycle path and not cycle path, which is why they've got so many signs up trying to tell people which side is which. Probably makes sense, I think, what they've done. But we come straight onto this nice filtered street here, and we turn right onto Queen Caroline Street, which is also a very nice filtered street too. There's not going to be any through traffic on it, and you can see the offending bridge ahead there. That's Hammersmith Bridge. It's quite nice bridge, sort of Victorian ornate sort of thing. But yeah, there it is in all its glory. And we go through this filter here, and that takes us onto the Thames Path. Now, the Thames Path is really inconsistent, and in different parts it's good and bad. It can be very good and very bad to cycle on. I'd say this is probably one of the better bits to cycle on. To be quite honest, I'm not 100% sure what the council, if it is the council, is doing here with these barriers and these pedestrians keep left signs. I think it might have something to do with social distancing and COVID. It does seem to be based on quite an outdated way of policing people during COVID, given what we know about the outside and transmission outside, and I'm not sure pedestrians ever actually follow instructions to keep left or anything like that when they're just out there walking their dogs, and dogs also don't follow them for obvious reasons. So I would just ignore those lines. It seems like everybody else does as well. But yeah, this is a shared space, so as usual, cycle courteously. We're only going to be along here for a bit because the path, it gets narrow and it sort of messes up a little bit around various points. So we're going to go back onto quiet streets in a minute, but I thought it would be nice to go along this bit here. It's a little bit simpler than picking your way through the streets. And generally it's quite nice to be able to see the river. That's quite a lovely little view, and it is a nice day. It's not too busy today. I think it does get a lot busier here on the weekend, so you might want to consider going on quiet streets parallel to this. Do watch out here, by the way, because that's a blind corner, so make sure you go dead slow through it so you don't hit anyone. And stay left of this wall because it's a ramp. If you went right of that wall, it is actually steps. Now we go past the pub here, and I'm just going to manoeuvre around this bin lorry, and it takes us onto Crabtree Lane. And yeah, now we're going to go back onto quiet streets. So we're coming up to Fulham here, sort of the sort of west end of Fulham, Holyport Road. And a lot of the streets around here are actually filtered. They've had their through traffic removed. So I don't think this is an official low traffic neighbourhood, but there is actually quite a lot of filtering and road closures and one-way systems and things, which has the same effect on a lot of the streets that we're going to be using. It's actually really nice. I absolutely love this filter here. This is absolutely gorgeous. We're so lucky to be here when the blossoms are out. Stevenage Road, really pretty, and you can see there it's those bollards and that emergency services gate that's doing it. That's absolutely lovely. I'm a big fan of that. And yeah, there's some more filters as well as we go down the road. None of them are quite as nice as that. And you can actually see looming in the distance there, those floodlights. They actually belong to Craven Cottage, which is the football ground for Fulham FC. Fulham, I believe, are now back in the Premier League after a spell in the Championship. They got promoted in the playoffs. And if you've never been to Craven Cottage, it's worth a go actually. Fulham, I think, is probably one of the more affordable places to get a Premier League football ticket. And Craven Cottage is really old. I don't know if it's the oldest ground in the Premier League, but it certainly feels very old inside, like it's not really been updated in a lot of ways. So it feels quite cosy. For now, I think we're very happy just cycling on this street. It's still Stevenage Road, and we're coming up to Bishop's Park, which is on our right and dead ahead of us. Now, this video was originally going to be Acton to Putney Bridge, and I was going to go through that park. You can turn in right and go through there. But if you see those yellow signs, it actually says no cycling from like 10 AM till 3 PM or something, some ridiculous time. I think that must be another social distancing thing as well. It's a temporary thing. It doesn't say anything about it on the website that I could see. So that was a bit of a disappointment when I got there. As a result, there isn't really a good way to cycle through to Putney Bridge. You could just walk through the park, but the road that we're about to cross would be the road that you'd have to cycle on to get to Putney Bridge now if you're not allowed to cycle through the park. And it isn't a very nice road to cycle on. It's Fulham Palace Road, it's this road. But we're not going to stay on it at all. We're going to go down here, Colehill Lane, which is a nice filtered street with another one of these gates. I was actually very surprised to see how many streets around here are filtered when I got here. West London doesn't have a great reputation for, having traffic calm streets. It's generally quite car based. But actually, yeah, there's quite a few streets around here that if you know where to go, you can pick your way through. And talking of knowing where to go, if you do find this video useful, if you enjoy it, if you just like watching it, then do make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I post new ones like it every week. Safe cycle routes, all back streets, protected cycle lanes, things like this. And yeah. So, you cross another busy road there, waiting for a gap in the traffic, and we go on to Swift Street, which is another filtered street. So this is great. We're making great headway here. You're not going to run into any through traffic. And then when you get to the end of Swift Street, just turn right. And I quite like what they've done with the parking here, actually. They've done it on a few streets around here. That sort of visual barrier between the carriageway and the cars makes it look good. But yeah, we're basically there now, so we're coming up to onto the Fulham Road, and yeah, that's it. If you went straight ahead, that would take you towards Parsons Green Tube, and in this direction, it would be Fulham Broadway. So that is the map of the route, and thanks very much for watching, guys. That was a great ride, I think, actually. The only bit I didn't really like was going down King Street, where there was that gap in the segregation. But generally, it's a pretty decent ride, and it's a lot faster than taking public transport if you need to get to Fulham. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and yeah, do subscribe to the channel, and do like the video, and see you again next time. Thank you very much.